Happy New Year to everybody. This video is quite an interesting one that I actually wanted to get out as a way to explain my point of view on two things that I noticed the RWBY fandom is extremely split about, and it's something that I don't understand why people are split about. As I said, I've always been analytical, logic, facts. If those three things line up, people shouldn't be split. It should be a pretty obvious thing if shit works itself out in that friggin' order. You can debate things, but debating things without facts, yeah, it doesn't work well. The two things that I wanted to go over was two characters. One, and that's probably gonna mess with the lighting, but have something playing in the background. It's nice. From that episode that's they're all reacting to is episode 3, and that character is Salem, because somehow, despite episode 3 coming out, everyone's split on kind of like where the blame goes for the past. Some people, surprisingly, after that episode, are still blaming Ozpin or Ozma's spirit. And he, in the flashback, he does very little wrong. Like, the guy friggin' dies, for fuck's sake. He comes back ages later, and his greatest crime is he went back to the woman he loved, and because he loved her so much, he made a few dumb mistakes, like playing God and stuff, but overall, when you consider how much time's passed in amongst all these reincarnations, it's stated at some point thousands, not how many, but based on the word thousands being plural, it's something that 2,000 years plus or more has gone past through all these reincarnations. When you see the same stuff over and over again in an immortal lifespan, you sometimes see this in vampire books and movies, that vampires they do a lot of weird shit. It's like, in some of them, they're very open sexually. They'll have sex out in friggin' public. They'll eat people out in public. It's the premise that over time, you lose your morality. That stuff becomes boring, stuff becomes complacent. So you take advantage of that. And that's what I'm kind of getting from Ozma's spirit, is that over time, this is nothing but a chessboard. Him and Salem are just a chessboard that's been reset. They're just playing the same game over and over again. So in regards to should he care about Team RWBY, Juniper, Crow and all that, yes. You can argue that Ozma's morality actually comes from the fact that in hindsight, I'm hoping they don't go down this path. It would be interesting, but they've hinted at both. They've hinted that he lives in harmony with this person he's inside of, and they can switch at any time, and that just goes on for the rest of their life. That's been hinted at. It's also been hinted at that he takes over their body, or that they merge into something that's not the original nor Ozma. And in each way, they could go both ways. Both ways are a way for Ozma to maintain a small level of morality through living these different lives. But in the span of how much time has passed, that morality will break down over time. As I said, it's like a friggin' chessboard. And that's one reason Ozma's spirit might be in the back of Oscar's head. Dead set, this could be a very extremely dark route, and I really doubt they're going to do it. But he could just be waiting for Oscar to die. What's the spirit got to be afraid of? Literally, Team RWBY, Juniper, Crow, all of them, they could just friggin' die. He could remain, and then when he respawns in a new body, he could just lock himself away again. You know what? I'll wait 2 generations, and then I'll start again with the next generation. Because Ozma's got time on his side. He's going to be reincarnated regardless. So the only thing that could kind of put that in far is how much, for some reason, at this point in time, Salem's actually pushing to gain things. That's the only reason he has to come back, which goes back to Salem. the other two people that copped the blame for that episode were the gods and Salem. Going into the gods, and this is where I think a large minority of the fandom who have gone towards blaming the gods, calling them petty and stuff, you're ignorant as shit. Let me put it in very basic concept. I've heard some people try to debate this, and I don't mind them debating this issue. They've described them as the Greek gods and that, which, like when you look at modern day society, if you're going to use the Greek gods as a reference in modern day society, the Greek gods were mythological. I'm not religious. I'm not religious at all. I like studying it. I find it fascinating, all the different religions. But to say in modern day society, there's more evidence forward to prove that Christianity or Islam exists, whether it's Allah or the Almighty God. There's more evidence to suggest they exist than the Greek gods. The Greek gods, it's clearly fake. Clearly fake. It's over-exaggerated stories. Probably some truth to them in the demigods and such, but not much evidence to suggest. I'm not saying that Christianity and Islam exist. I'm saying they're overly exaggerated as well. But there's just more evidence towards it, if it was going to be true. And whether or not you look at them as the Greek gods or that, take this into consideration. Any being with the power and mastery over all of creation, and just for me, creation is the key point. It's not destruction. What you take in it is that human beings are capable of both creation and destruction. We're just not capable on the level that these beings are, or what would be like the Christian God or Allah. We're not capable of creation and destruction on that friggin' level. We can create a fucking TV that you can watch shit on. Congratulations. These are beings with mastery over the soul, over creating life. They can wipe out life in a friggin' instant. It doesn't take them long. And for beings to have that much power to metamorphosize their physical being, to have this level of mastery, and for humans, such as the Ruby fandom in this instance, to turn around and go, you're petty, to me, that just screams ignorance. It's like, take for instance, imagine if the Christian God walked the earth. He's got complete dominion over all of creation. He can create the Big Bang just by clicking his fucking fingers. Everything starts fucking again. He can destroy everything in an instant. What human is dumb enough to go up to him and call him petty or start a fight with him? It's not logical. So, in this instance, you know, you can call the gods petty if you feel like it, but, like, it's like, I'm trying to think of a good instance. It's like when scientists, imagine two scientists and they're running tests on a new experiment or gas that they've created that kills things, and they're testing it on rats. We're the rats. You don't walk into a science room, look at the scientists and say, oh God, how can you be testing it on those rats? Those rats have fucking lives. Or even if it was a plant they were testing it on, that plant has a life. The plant and the rat can't do shit to the scientists. The scientists, in that opinion, are their god, and they're experimenting on them. So that's essentially what's happening in the show, is that the two gods see Remnant, they see all of it as nothing more as an experiment. It's one way for them to entertain their eternal existence. Something that's now reflective in Ozma and Salem, their eternal existence. They're actually getting a taste of what it is to live a long lifespan. And you can kind of see why the gods create these experiments to entertain themselves over long periods of time. So it might not be nice when your experiment turns around on you. Yeah, instant death. And I don't blame the gods for that. Remnant was their experiment. Their experiment turned on them because of stupidity, and they wiped them out. It's simple. It's not petty. It's simple. You gave them the gift of magic, and they turned their hand on you. That's not a good thing. It's like you have a pet dog and a dog bites you and draws blood, you're most likely going to put the dog down. It doesn't matter if it has a life or that it was a cheerful dog for all the fucking years. If it bites you, you're going to put it down. And you don't feel guilty for it because you're thinking in your head it's the right thing to do. So in that sense, I'm not blaming Ozma. I'm not blaming the gods. A lot of this centers around Salem. And this is my problem with Salem's character in general. A lot of people are theorizing due to the fact of the ending of the episode. They say he can't beat Salem. And I know that's supposedly a key word because it's building up maybe Ruby could flash a fucking silver eyes or some shit. But I want to look in the broader sense is that the one thing you don't take away from episode 3 is that you're actually told how to defeat Salem. And it's not that Ruby can do it or Ozma can do it. The Light God actually tells Salem the solution to her curse in the broader sense. The whole curse exists so that she comes to terms with life and death. The cycle of life and death. It's so fucking simple. He's just... like, we've given you immortality, but the moment you come to terms with life and death, you can go to the afterlife, love. It's like, we're trying to teach you a lesson. As soon as you get it, your curse is over. That's actually stated in the show. It's canon. So, I don't know how this became so fucking complicated. In turn, this all comes down to Salem. It's Salem learning a simple lesson that... and if I just break it down quickly, given that we know thousands of years have passed, given what we know from this episode, it's not her grim side that's the problem. Her going into the grim pool, no, Salem was an arsehole before she went into the grim pool. I get that she's mourning. I lost my mum, and I'm being dead honest. If a god does exist, I will have words with that fucking god when I die over how my mum died, because it was an aneurysm. My mum was a fighter. If she had the chance, if it was cancer or something, she could have overcome that. I know my mum. Aneurysm is completely random. It's a blood vessel in the brain that just bursts and flood your head with blood. You instantly die. It could happen to anyone. I could be making this video and one could happen. There's no way to predict when it's going to happen. So that's all. That was my issue when my mum passed away 2 years ago. Is like, I did, if God exists, I blamed him. I'm not going to freaking lie. I'm going to be like, whoever had control over that is a fuckwit. I came to terms with it over less than a year. It's like, but my point is, Salem's had thousands of years. She's watched countless henchmen live and die. She's been watching Ospen reincarnate. If she magically gets obliterated, she just appears again. But she's been watching generations of people live and die. The cycle is there. It's pretty damn fucking obvious. And the fact that she hasn't come to terms with it, it either says she's, 1, she's an idiot, 2, she's ignorant, or 3, the writers forgot that they put that little glitch in the fucking thing that, yeah, it's weird. It's just that Salem, to me, appears as an arsehole before she went in the Grim Pools. And the fact that she lived in seclusion, in peace, after she became part Grim, is kind of weird. I mean, you want to hint that the Grim Pools were the reason she's like this psychotic, revenge-driven, but she's not. It's like the moment she becomes a Grim, she goes and lives in seclusion. For God knows how long. Could have been hundreds of years she could have lived in seclusion. So, she's not a monster because of the Grim Pool, she's a monster because of who she is. And that's my problem with Salem. I don't get where they're going with this. If Ruby flashes her eyes and she turns back to human, she's still going to be an arsehole. It's not the Grim Pools that have done this to her. It's her. Salem is a prick. My other character that I'm going to transfer over to quickly and get this out of the way very fast is a character who the fandom thinks is in a grey area. That's Raven Bronwyn. To me, the reason her character is just evil in general, like, I don't think she deserves a redemption arc. One of the biggest mistakes in Naruto towards the end is the character of Obito. He gets redeemed, and That was something I had issue with. I'm like, he didn't deserve to be redeemed because technically everything that happens in Naruto and Naruto Shippuden is all centered around this fuckwit. He fucked up the whole show. So he should have just died a villain. The talk no jutsu shit, yeah. And that's similar in this case to Raven. And I think it's world building. World building is what has actually damaged Raven. And I don't think the writers have actually taken into consideration what they've done when they've made her character. It could be just that they didn't look at it from the perspective that I'm looking at it, right? So the world building for Raven Bronwyn is that, she's abandoned Yang when she was born or shortly after, gone to live with her family that raised her, the bandits. And what do we know about the bandits then? This is how we judge Raven in general. What do we know about the bandits? And from what we see in Shion Village, in I think that was volume 4, is that the bandits come in, they rob people, so they're thievery straight off. That's wrong, but it's not that bad. It's fucking thievery. Who gives a shit? They're bandits. But in a world where negative emotions cause Grimm to come running, and a lot of Grimm at that, and Raven saying, well, we did not know the Grimm were going to show up that fast, indicates that they're fully aware that the Grimm will show up at some point to the negative emotions created by the bandit tribe going in, is that you multiply what you've seen in Shion Village. Shion Village isn't the only one. When you consider that it's a bandit tribe, they don't raise their own crops or that. You actually see this in Fallout 4 if you choose to align yourself with bandits. You're not allowed to do farming or that. It pisses off the bandits. They prefer to steal and get tributes from other people. And this is what you see in the friggin' show. You don't see them farming or shit. So you take Shion Village and you multiply it by a generalization of how long Raven has been with the tribe. So that you take into consideration that this tribe needs stockpiles of resources from food, dust, etc. So you can maybe calculate on an estimate that if we take into consideration how our year runs, 12 months in a year, and if we around Yang's age, I think, is 19 now. She left shortly after she died, let's say 18. Let's just assume that she had control of the tribe for those 18 years. That she walked back, killed the leader, took over, and now she's the leader of the tribe. For 18 years, once a month, 12 times a year, for 18 years, they go into a village, they rob and they thieve them, and the Grimm set in. Now, 50-50 with the huntsman being impressed in this situation. Some of the villagers might have survived due to huntsmen being able to protect them from the Grimm. But the thing is, you take the math. Once a month, 12 times a year for 18 years. And even if we cut that in half by suggesting that the huntsman protected those villagers from the Grimm, we're basically saying 6 times... Oh, no, it's 18. It's 18 times 12. So 9 times 12. Let's say 9 times 12. Half of those situations, the Grimm overran the villagers and killed everyone. And that's all thanks to Raven and her tribe going in and instigating the negative emotions. In this case, as a leader of the tribe that's starting the whole situation, Raven has to take the full force of it. Take the responsibility. You chose to take your tribe in there. You chose to create the negative situation by robbing these people. You chose the negative emotions that were going to be a byproduct of it, and then the Grimm are going to set in. Then people are going to die. So you're basically looking anywhere between easily hundreds, guaranteed hundreds, thousands, tens of thousands of people have died due to Raven leading the Bronwyn tribe. This woman is not a nice person. There is no grey area. There shouldn't be a redemption for a Yang talking to her. Oh, I've gone to speak to my ex-husband that I haven't seen in God knows how long. So, yeah, Tai shouldn't be... For me, Raven shouldn't be redeemed. When you have the blood of the that many people on your hands due to your actions, there shouldn't be redemption. I never believed Obito should have been redeemed. I was interested in his story in Naruto. I found it fascinating, but he should have just died a prick. He could never be redeemed in my eyes. And Raven Bronwyn is the same. I don't see this grey area because I don't think she deserves a redemption when there's literally tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of people that have died due to her actions as leader of the Bronwyn tribe. That's just two things that I thought I would get across as my point of view, is that Salem is really to blame with this, and the show could be over if she came to terms with the life and death cycle that is stated in the show. And I feel like they're going a different route, even though the answer's there. And Raven Bronwyn is in, typically, she's a monster. It was stated in the battle. I do have actually something else to say, but I am running out of time. One thing consideration, how Aura covers weapons right. You might want to go back to the Maiden vs. Maiden battle. If Aura encompasses weapons as well, and the clashing is what's causing the aura to deplete, why is Raven's weapon breaking? It's a dust blade. It doesn't mean it has to be fragile, because if an aura is encompassing the weapon, it doesn't break. The aura protects it. So why is her dust blades breaking? And in second part to her weapon, which I do find is a cool design, I just think it's executed extremely poorly, it's dust blades. No matter which dust blade she's bringing out, we're not actually seeing elemental discharge from the weapon. When she has a red blade, we're not seeing high temperatures, fire, or burning. When we see an ice blade, we're not seeing people getting frozen from the contact with the ice blade. See a wind blade, we're not seeing tornadoes or shit rise out. We're not getting elemental discharge, despite the fact it's a dust blade. We're seeing the blade break time and time again, suggesting that aura is not encompassing the blade, even though it's stated in the show that aura encompasses tools and weapons, such as a cybernetic tail, Yang's metal arm. Aura can get around it, and for some reason, Raven's weapon breaks multiple friggin' times for no reason, and doesn't discharge any elemental capabilities, despite the fact that's what dust does. Just a thought. They're my views on Raven and Salem, and a little extra on Raven's weapon, which I think does not function to the potential that it should. Just a thought. Love to